What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Blitz Angle, and we are here our Thursday night football preview between the Las Vegas Raiders, who are at the bottom of a lot of power rankings right now, and they are facing a team tied for the best record in the NFL right now, in the Denver Broncos, who are 7-2, Dan, in the top of the AFC West. The latest they've been on top of the AFC West in quite some time in an NFL season. So, Dan, what are the keys in this matchup you're going to be taking a look at?
Yeah, well, first off, it's a rivalry game, man, and these Thursday night games, every rivalry matchup, divisional matchup, has been close.
Yeah.
So I expect this game will be close as well. You know, these two teams don't like each other. It's a long history. Raiders Broncos, a lot of historic battles, good memories, bad memories. But I think overall it's gonna be a fun game. It's in Denver, and I think they're gonna Denver Broncos are gonna get the Raiders' best shot. I think. This is like, the Raiders are currently last place, and they get to go on the road and, try to take down a first place team, like you said. The thing that worries me about the Raiders, though, is the record on the road. We'll start there. This season, they have a 1-3 record away from Vegas. The thing that worries me is a negative 75 point differential on the road,
Whew.
and it's terrible. You can't put it any
Yikes.
yeah, dude, it's bad. It's bad. So we're gonna see what team shows up on Thursday. This team's hit or miss, and I'm gonna be watching on Prime, and we're gonna see what happens. So I think we'll start with there. The Raiders are not very good on the road, and also the Broncos are on a 6 game win streak. So, this is gonna be tough. How does Denver win this game? I wanna hear your take. Or how do the Raiders win this game? I don't know, but I wanna get your take.
Yeah,
What's
I thought
your,
the Raiders actually
analysis?
played a lot better last week against the Jaguars,
Yeah.
so they have a little bit of positive momentum. I know they lost a tough overtime game where they failed a two-point conversion, but they were much more competitive coming off of the bye week, and it seemed like they had a better game plan on both sides of the ball that allowed them to, keep up with the playoff contender. Well, I think both of us agree the Jaguars are probably gonna be on the outside, potentially looking into the playoff picture when it's all said and done, but they're a playoff team right now. And the Raiders showed that they can compete with those teams, and I liked what they were able to do. With a game plan coming out of the bye week. Now it's a short week, right? You have a veteran coaching staff, Pete Carroll, Chip Kelly. Like these guys have been through these short weeks, and obviously you're going against a Broncos team that has a great defense. They're missing their best defensive player, and we'll talk about that in a second. But they're 7-2 right now. And the reason why I think the Raiders have a shot in this one is strictly because the Broncos might be winning the ugliest in the NFL this year. It feels like right now. Last week against the Texans was a great example of how their season's gone, relying on a last second drive from Bo Nix scrambling in order to win that game. And if CJ Stroud doesn't get knocked out, it looks like they probably lose that game last week. And they've relied a lot on their defense throughout this entire season. And when their defense hasn't shown up, they have lost. And, that's very rare for this defense not to show up, but they're also missing their best player. And I think if you're Las Vegas, you have to feel comfortable with the fact that a Houston Texans team who's had a hard time moving the ball this season had a pretty easy time moving the ball last week through the air. They just couldn't convert inside Denver territory, and they held them to field goals. If they're able to convert a few of those to touchdown this week and, play well against this Broncos offense that has been really inconsistent throughout the season, I think there's a shot that Las Vegas covers the spread in this game, and we have a ball game, right? Let's take a look on both sides of the ball, Dan. We'll talk about that Denver defense versus that Las Vegas offense. What matchups are you taking a look at there?
Yeah, well, I think it's, you just look at the stats. Anywhere you look, sacks, Denver's first. Quarterback pressures, first. Pressure rate, Denver is first. It's just amazing. They got a great squad out there. They're only allowing 18.4 points per game. But like you said, they don't have Patrick Surtain. But, one thing I'm looking at is, the Denver Broncos are one of the highest, rated teams. They run a lot of man coverage, and, on the other end, the Raiders have had a lot of success this year against man coverage. Some of Geno Smith's best games have come against teams that run a lot of man. We'll take it back last week. The Jaguars ran man coverage 25.6% of the time. Geno Smith had one of his better games. He had 284 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. Also, week 1 with a healthy Brock Bowers, the Patriots ran cover one 38% of the time. Geno Smith threw over 362 yards, 1 touchdown. So if the Denver Broncos wanted to run man coverage, I think the Raiders are going to burn them. They got a lot of speed. They got Trey Tucker, Dante Thornton, and they got a weapon, Brock Bowers, who's finally healthy for the first time since that game in New England week 1. So
Yeah.
I wanna see if the Broncos, test the Raiders, and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna run man." Because I know they kind of flipped it up without Surtain last week. They ran a lot of zone. So I wanna see what they run because, if they run man, they're gonna get burned.
Yeah, I mean, obviously having the best cornerback in, the NFL helps and allows you to play a lot more man coverage. And, the thing I
Mhm.
look at for, the Raiders on offense is they're going to have to keep those pass rushers, a little bit quieter. And that's going to have to happen
Yeah,
by Ashton Genty getting going, which he's struggled a little bit in tougher matchups this year. And teams have been able to negate them, right? Then you're going to rely on Geno Smith taking care of the ball. And, despite him having a better game last week, still had a turnover last week as well. So it's like you're looking at it. You have Jacoby Myers, who now is traded to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Like they are in a tough spot outside of Brock Bowers with their receiver weapons. I know they got some pieces in there, but still a favorable matchup for this Denver defense. I think you look across the board, it's hard to not pick against that defense against this Raiders offense. It's just going to come down to that pass defense. And I know last week the Texans were able to move the ball through the air a lot better than we've seen against the Denver defense as of late, but it was the pass rush that got to them when they were on that side of the field that held them to field goals, right? And
yeah.
the interesting part about the matchup too is I think the Raiders offensive line, like they're not great, but I don't think they're like a bunch of, they're just a middle of the pack offensive line, right? They can hold up sometimes, and I think it could make things a little bit frisky for Las Vegas on the offensive side of the ball. But Denver is extremely talented up front, and Las
Yeah.
Vegas, if they don't establish that run, those pass rushers are going to be able to tee off on Geno Smith. And I do think I like the Broncos defense to get a turnover in this one. I think that is a bet that I would definitely be taking a look at heading into this matchup with how turnover prone they have been. All right, let's flip the other side of the ball. The Raiders defense versus the Broncos offense. Dan, what are we looking at here?
Yeah, well, the just a quick summary here. Denver's offense, the 25 points per game, 213 pass yards, 134 rush yards. The Raiders defense, on the other hand, has been really good against the run. They kind of been underrated, surprisingly. So I want to see that matchup. Is will J.K. Dobbins have a big game? I think that's going to be a key. Sean Payton wants to run the ball, and their offense runs a lot of screens. They're very screen heavy. So I think we're going to see the Raiders defense play a lot of close to the line of scrimmage, and they're going to dare the Broncos to beat them deep. That's why I was wondering what that team did at the trade line deadline if they added a receiver to stretch the field. I think that's what they're missing, and they didn't. So I don't know if J.K. Dobbins is gonna have a big game, but the Broncos' success will rely on him. Sean Payton wants to run play action, and the Raiders have been very good against the run this year. So I think that's a key matchup to watch.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to can this Denver offense slow down Max Crosby? It feels like Crosby's been very good this season, and nobody's talking about it just because of the Raiders' record and how they've struggled on both
Yeah,
sides of the ball this year. Crosby's been a game wrecker, and the Raiders, front seven is not too shabby, right? We talked about that, and their run defense being a little bit underrated. Travis Etienne had a lot of carries last week against them, but like that was a game that went all the way into overtime, and the yards eventually are going to pile up against them. But they've done a pretty good job this year terms of limiting teams in the ground. And obviously, Denver's offense, when they're actually ranked top 8 in the NFL in passing attempts, so they're letting Bo Nix sling that thing around. And Nix has had a
yeah,
lot of accuracy problems. He's 35th in catchable target rate, right? He's 40th in completion over expected. Like this guy has struggled this year, Dan. He has not been very good at times, but when he also gets in a rhythm and feels comfortable, right, that's when this Broncos offense is scary because you have a Sean Payton run game paired with Bo Nix,
yeah,
starting to get going. And, it was last week, all it took was Cortland Sutton hitting a ball over the top, and Bo Nix, completed that pass. He was 5 of 16 when he completed that pass to Cortland Sutton for a touchdown, and then they take the lead, right? That's what happens when you have a great defense is you get in these situations, right, where Bo Nix struggles, but they don't really have to worry about it because the defense is always going to keep them in the game, right? I don't know how
yeah.
well that's going to play against, Kansas City next week in potential, but this week is a great,
Big thing.
stepping stone for this team to get comfortable, get on track on offense, be consistent for, one of the few times this season outside of, a very favorable matchup a few weeks ago. I want to see Bonix play within the schedule. I want to see him get the ball out of his hands, and I want to see him complete over 70% of his passes. I think that would be a big step for this offense against the Raiders secondary that is just not very good, frankly. So I think that they're gonna be able to try to exploit that. And I like Cortland Sutton to have a nice day. I think Troy Franklin as well is a name to watch. I think both those Broncos receivers, and I actually do like the unders on J.K. Dobbins, just based on kind of how the Raiders match up and what I think the Broncos are going to
Yeah.
try to do in this matchup. So I think the final thing, though, Dan, I kind of want to talk about in this game is I think a way the Raiders can stay in this too is Denver is one of the most penalized teams in the NFL this season, and eventually that is going to come back to bite them at some point. So it is going to be interesting to see
Yeah.
how long that'll be able to hold up for Denver. Of all these pass interference calls, the holding calls, all that type of stuff. Eventually, that's going to beat you in a close one-score game, and it just hasn't beat Denver just yet. And it feels like that time could potentially be coming in a close game at the end of the game when they need it. All right, it's prediction time, Dan. Who are you going with and why?
Yeah, well, good point. To add on to your penalties, yeah, Denver's 30th in the NFL in penalties. On the other
Yeah.
hand, the Raiders are top 10. That's kind of crazy. I didn't even realize that.
Hey, that's a
That's-
disciplined Raiders team right there.
hey, that maybe the first time in my lifetime. I'll tell you that. Hey, but Thursday night, man, what have we learned? Anything can
It's chaos.
happen.
It's chaos.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, we all know Denver's the better team. We all know this. But historically, Sean Payton is 4-8 on Thursday night football. 4 and
Ooh,
8. Pete Carroll, on the other hand, 8-4. So we got a little difference here. Hey Ryan, who does Denver play next after this
like
game?
Kansas City, and you're a big guy that overlooks a team.
Sean Payton before since he took over Denver, Sean Payton's record in games before they play Kansas City is 1-3. Isn't that amazing? He's 1-3. So you know what that
Ooh,
means? I feel like Lee Corso here. I'm going with the Raiders.
you're going with
Thursday
the
night
Raiders,
football.
man.
The Raiders 27. You can't even see the hat. 27-24. Upset.
Wow.
It's their
Going
Super
with the
Bowl, man. Primetime matchup. Let's go. 27-24. Raiders find a way to win. Hey, one more quick thing. Since 2020, the Raiders have an 8-2 record against Denver. It's crazy. They own the Broncos since 2020, 8-2. The
damn,
Raiders will
dude.
find a way to pull it out, man.
So I think we're both on track that Las Vegas is going to cover in this one. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna say I can't pick
Here we
against
go.
Denver. I'm not picking against Denver. I'm not picking against
Somebody's
Denver,
got to
man.
win.
Their defense is too talented. It's gonna be the same script as last week, right? They're playing
Uh,
a team in the Texans that they, should beat just based on their record alone, but it's a close
yeah.
one-score game in the fourth quarter, and they find a way to pull it out because their defense is just that good, right? It's the same script. I've seen it all season long with this Broncos team. They did the same script against the Jets too. Like it's how this Broncos team is. Uh, I think it's going to be a 20-17 ball game. That's my final score.
Oh,
I think Denver is going to win. Like I said, I like J.K. Dobbins unders. I like Cortland Sutton and Troy Franklin overs. Defensively, I like the Broncos to get a turnover. And if I was betting on somebody random on the Raiders, I think I'll take Geno Smith 2 touchdown passes in this one. So
there you
that
go.
is that is Link's slip right there. I think we're in for a good Thursday night football game, and I would not mind the Denver Broncos falling in this game for sure. Looking ahead a little bit, get that L. We will see what happens though. Drop your predictions down in the comments section below. Dan's got his Raiders. I got the Broncos. Hit that subscribe button for more Blitz Sports Media content. And me and Dan will catch you guys next time.